Hello again, class. You are now in the second part of today's lesson. This is an interesting part because I am going to introduce you with adverbs of frequency. Class, there are many times in an English conversation when you need to explain how often you do something. For example, how many times do you read book per day? How often you go see the doctor? Or do you always go to the library? So these are the questions that require you to explain how often you do an activity. So, adverbs of frequency actually helps you to describe the activity you do. In other words, adverbs of frequency explain something, how often something happens. So, are you ready for some examples of these adverbs? Right, let's dive into always, usually, sometimes, and never. The first adverbs of frequency is always. Always describe the action that happens all the time. It also describes the action that happens every day. Okay, look at this bar for example. The red color represents how often or how many times you do the action. This bar is 100% filled with red color, which means you always do this action, you do this action all the time, and you do this action every day. For example, I always wake up 5 o'clock in the morning. Based on this example, the word always here shows that every day I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It happens all the time. It happens every day. Next is usually. Usually describes the action that happens many times, but not every day and not all the time. You got me? Usually describes the action that happens many times, but not every day and not all the time. Okay, look at this bar. The red color is slightly lesser than the red color that you saw in the always bar earlier. So this means that you do this action many times, but not every day, not all the time. For example, I usually visit my grandparents on Friday. Okay, the adverb usually here shows that I often visit my grandparents on Friday. I do it. Okay, I go visit my grandparents for many times on Friday, but not every day, not all the time. Okay, you got me? Now, let's move on to sometimes. Sometimes is the adverbs that we use to describe the action that happens less often, or the action that happens occasionally. Look at this bar for example. Okay, the red color fills only 50% of the bar. This means this action happens sometimes. Or you do this action less often. Or you do this action occasionally. For example, I sometimes pick up dinner on the way home. The word sometimes here shows that I occasionally pick up dinner on the way home, but not every day. It does not happen every day and not often. Okay? Last but not least is never. Never is used to describe the action that does not happen at all, not even once. Okay? Never describes the action that does not happen at all, not even once. Look at this bar, for example. It is empty. There is no red color in it. So, this means that this action is never happen. It does not happen at all, not even once. For example, I never go to work before taking breakfast. The word never here shows that before go to work, I must eat my breakfast first. Or it is impossible for me to go to work before eating my breakfast. Okay? Phew! You are now done with the part 2 of today's lesson. So, as usual, before we move on to the third part of today's lesson, this is the adverbs of frequency worksheet that you need to complete on your own. As usual, after you have finished doing the worksheet, snap your answer and send it personally to my WhatsApp number. Okay? Hello again. Now that you have learned about adverbs of frequency, so it is time for you to move on to the third part of today's lesson, which is on daily routines. What is daily routines? Okay. Daily routines refer to the things that you do on a regular basis. Or you can also refer daily routines as the activity that you do regularly in your typical day. And whether you realize this or not, when you are telling someone about your daily routines, about the activity that you do every day, you usually use adverbs of frequency to tell them how often you do that activity. Okay? You got me? Alright, in this part, you are going to learn about the daily routines of Megan and Pablo. Here in this left picture is Megan, and she is a figure skater. Meanwhile, in the right picture is Pablo, and he is a chess player. After this, you are going to listen to and read about the daily routines of both Megan and Pablo. And then, you are going to answer some comprehension questions based on their daily routines. So, are you ready? Okay, please be prepared. Let's listen to their daily routines.
A day in the life of a figure skater. Megan, 9. Megan usually goes to the ice skating rink at 6:30 in the morning. She goes to school at 7:45. After school, she does her homework. Megan sometimes watches TV after dinner. She always goes to bed at 8 o'clock at night.
A day in the life of a chess player. Pablo, 10. Pablo goes to school at 8:15. After school, Pablo doesn't go home. He always goes to the chess club and plays chess. He usually goes home at 6 o'clock in the evening. After he does his homework, Pablo has dinner. He sometimes plays chess on his computer. Pablo usually goes to bed at 9 o'clock.
And finally, this is the last task of today's lesson. So please read the daily routines of Megan and Pablo again and then answer all these questions. Your answer should be either yes, she does or no, she doesn't. And yes, he does or no, he doesn't. Okay? Phew. Alhamdulillah, we have finished our lesson for today. Well, it's quite a lot of input that you have learned today. In the first part, you learn about personal pronouns. In the second part, you learn about adverbs of frequency. And finally, in the last part, in the third part of today's lesson, you learn about the daily routines of Megan and Pablo. So I hope today's lesson is not too much for you, but it's okay if you can't get it. You can always go back to my video and rewatch the video, the content of the video again and again and again. Okay? Please do your worksheets. Send your answer to me. Snap your answer and send it to me. And then stay at home. Take care of yourself. Practice clean hygiene. Stay safe. Stay happy. Stay healthy. Goodbye. See you again in the next lesson. Mwah.